Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. This is going to be a guide to growing corn and sunflowers in Farming Simulator 25. This is going to be for all platforms, so if you're playing on PC and Mac, Xbox, or PlayStation, this will work for you. This is also the base game, so it doesn't have any mods or anything crazy like that installed, but in general this should work with modded versions of the equipment and everything like that. I do also tend to talk a little fast, so if you need to slow down the video, you can do that down below as well. There are also time codes down below as well to skip ahead to specific categories or specific topics if you're looking for something in particular. We're going to cover field prep for planting corn and sunflowers, planting the corn and sunflowers, caring for corn and sunflowers, harvesting corn and sunflowers, and then what to do with them after that in this video. So those are going to be the time codes that are marked out down below. Also, make sure you check out the comment section for the first pinned comment. If there's anything that's different, changed, or anything like that that I missed, it'll be put into that comment. So just make sure you guys go check that out. But let's go ahead and move on to field prep. So this field's actually already prepped for us, but we're still going to talk about these stages for field prep. I will note as well, if you've seen my How to Grow Grains video, this is the exact same field prep section as you saw in that video. So you can go ahead and skip ahead to planting and seeding if you've already seen that video. Just be aware of that. And likewise for this video, after you watch this, you won't have to watch it on that video. So there we go. But we need to plow or cultivate or do something to prep this field, unless we're going to use a direct drill seeder, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. So plowing and cultivating. Now, what do we need to do for that? If we go into here, under field or soil cultivation, we have several pieces of equipment here. If you want to know specific details about all of these individually, because we just need to use one of them, it doesn't matter really which one. There are a few differences between them. I'll put a card up on your screen right now to my field prep guide that talks about all of those in great detail. The main thing we need to note here is if we are playing with plowing required, we need to use a plow, a spader, or a subsoiler to deal with that, okay? And what I mean by that, if we go into our game settings here, periodic plowing required. If we have that turned on, we need to go to our map, we need to go over to soil composition, and we need to check the needs plowing box over here and make sure this is not highlighted red. If it's highlighted red like that, we need to use a plow, subsoiler, or a spader to get rid of that actual plowing state. Otherwise, we're going to take a little bit of a yield deficit. So just be aware of that. You can turn that on or off just like I showed you as well. The other thing I want to note as well is every time after you harvest corn, you will need to plow again. Normally you need to plow every 3 harvests, I believe it is, but with corn and other specific crops, you need to do it every time. So just be aware of that. And yeah, just be aware of that. So the other thing we need to worry about is fieldstone and lime. So we can check down here as needs lime. Nope, doesn't need lime there. It would have that kind of color if it does need lime, but you can see no need lime there. I have stones also turned off. If we go over here to our game settings, you can turn lime off as well. Fieldstone off or on, and then periodic plowing, or excuse me, lime down here on or off. If we have it set on, we need to lime every 3 harvests to make sure we get the best yield. Fieldstones will only come up with certain cultivators and spaders and plows and stuff like that, which is covered in my field prep video. And they don't cause any yield deficit to the crops if they're on the field. They will cause some damage to your equipment, a little bit of damage or a little bit of more wear and tear than normal if you do have those on. So just be aware of that. But now that our field's ready to go, we need to talk about planting and seeding sunflowers and corn. If we go into the store, we're just going to use a regular planter, not a seeder. We need to use one of these planters. In here, you can see corn and sunflowers. Now, they also plant sorghum, soybeans, sugar beets, cotton, and green beans, but we're talking about sunflowers and corn in this video. Another couple of things to consider when planting is we want to look for seeders or planters, that can do fertilizer as well. So this one does seed and fertilizer, has an icon. This one actually does liquid fertilizer. So solid fertilizer is that icon. Liquid fertilizer is that one. If it is, for example, this guy right here only does seeding. It's not going to put down any fertilizer for you, which we want to put down some fertilizer because it'll save us a little bit of time when we get to the crop care section as well. But yes, that's one thing we need to look at. The other thing we can consider is a no-till, which is down here. It'll say, additionally, this seeder offers the possibility to seed directly. No previous cultivating or plowing necessary. If it's set that way, we don't actually have to do the field prep step in terms of cultivating or plowing. Now, if you're doing corn, you still have to do that plowing every time to make sure that that part is dealt with, so that way you don't have a yield deficit. But if you're doing sunflowers, you now may only have to plow every 3rd time, and so you could use one of these instead to just plant over that field and skip having to cultivate it. So just be aware of that. The only direct drill planters in the game, base game at least, are this Missouri one up here and then the Kinsey Blue Drive down here. So just be aware of that. We're going to use this planter right here. It's not a direct drill, but it doesn't matter for us because we have cultivated or plowed our field, and then it does do fertilizer as well, which is great. So if I hop over here to the store, we have our planter here. You need to unfold it, and then you need to buy seeds and solid fertilizer. So seeds can be purchased in here. This is the best deal on seeds. You get a little bit more for the same price. And then down here under yield improvements and then consumables, we can buy solid fertilizer here or here. If you do have the one that takes liquid fertilizer, you can buy liquid fertilizer here or here. So it doesn't matter, the brands don't matter or anything like that. It's just different methods to buy it. So there we go. I'm just going to push that out of the way a little bit and pull up in between them. When we pull up next to them, hit R to refill. That's actually refilling our fertilizer, which is fine. After the fertilizer is put in there, we're going to hit R again to refill the seeds. And then down there, bottom right-hand side, it is set to plant corn right now. We can change that to corn, sorghum, sunflower, soy, or anything else that this planter can do. Now, what I'm going to do for our field is I'm going to plant it half and half. So just to be a little bit creative, I guess you could say. But we're going to come over to the field. I'm going to hit V to lower this down and B to turn on the planter. And then as I go across it, you can see we are planting our crops, which is absolutely awesome. So there we go. We're planting corn, our seed and fertilizer are going down. And if we check in here on the main menu and we go to soil composition, we can see that this has the step 1 of fertilizer. That dark is 2 states of fertilizer. That light blue is 1 state of fertilizer. But I'll talk about more of that when we get to the crop care section. The other thing you need to note, if you're playing with seasons on, I'm not, so you have this just stocked full of colors in here, but you have to plant at a specific time and harvest at a specific time if you have seasons turned on. If you don't have seasons turned on, that doesn't matter. We can go into seasonal growth here under game settings, and we can change that to pause, which don't set it to that. That means nothing's going to grow. Or we can hit yes for seasons. If we go out here, well, it's yes for seasons. We can only plant corn in April and May, and we can only plant sunflowers in March and April, and then they get harvested over here. If you wait until past that harvest date when you're playing with seasons on, unfortunately, you are going to have your crops withered, so they won't be harvestable after that. So just be aware of that if you're playing with seasons on. I'm going to go back down to us, and we're going to turn them off for now. Everything else is the same. You just have to plant, and see, right now it's upset with me because I turned seasons on. Now, if I turn it back on, it should be fine to let me plant. There we go. But yes, that is everything you need to know about planting them. Now we're going to move on to crop care, which, by the way, if you've watched my video on grains, you can skip the crop care portion of this as well because it's going to be the exact same. But otherwise, I'm going to finish planting and then we're going to talk about crop care after that. All right, the field is planted half sunflowers, half corn, which you can't tell right now, but it is. So there we go. Now, we can't put another layer of fertilizer down right now because we just did with our seeder. Now, if you had not used a fertilizer spreading seeder like we did, you could immediately put down fertilizer using one of these right here. Now, if you want to know more specifics about fertilizing and things like that, I have videos out on all of that on my channel that go into more details about how to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and fast forward to the next day because then we'll be able to actually do some fertilizing. All right, we are on to the next day. So you can see our sunflowers are growing and so is our corn. We can now see the line here. Now, the other thing we have to deal with is weeds, which we'll talk about in a second. If we go up to this field, you can see we have small weeds down their bottom right-hand corner. And it also says yield bonus plus 53%. If you want to know how to get that to 100%, you're going to want to watch my To Maximize Yield video, which will help you double your yield on any field. I'll put a card to that up on the screen right now to help you out. But let's go ahead and add another layer of fertilizer here, which again, you can use solid fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, slurry, digestate, manure, whatever works for you to fertilize your field. So we're going to go ahead and drive over it and start fertilizing. You can see it's a little bit of a darker hue on the field now because we've thrown the fertilizer down to kind of help indicate where you fertilized. Just keep going like that. And now if I hop into the menu here, you can see we have 2 states of fertilizer down instead of just the 1. It'll update if you hop in and out of the menu, which is perfect. So fertilizer is getting down. Now, the next thing we need to deal with is these pesky weeds. If you have weeds turned off, you won't have to deal with the weeds at all, which I'll show you how to turn those off in a second. But otherwise, you will have to use either a sprayer, like we have over there, to spray herbicide down to kill the weeds, or you'll have to use a weeder specifically to get rid of these weeds. Oops, I don't need that up there. If we go into the store, you can use one of these weeders. These will take care of small weeds, small and medium, and then these 3 will also take care of small weeds. The herbicide and the sprayer will take care of every kind of weed of all. It'll take care of all sizes of weeds. So if you have medium, small, whatever. And again, like I showed you, you can go up to the field to check and see which one you have. And if we also go into the menu here, you can show in here if we have weeds. So those are growing. Dead ones will be kind of this brown hint right there. That's what's showing that we've killed them off. So that's what we want to see, or we don't want to see any weeds in there at all. Now, if you wanted to turn off weeds, you can go into your game settings, and then you can go down here to weeds and turn those off if you don't want to use them or have them in the game, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and turn our sprayer on, and we're going to start driving over and taking care of the weeds just like that. And you can see they're starting to get killed off. They are now kind of a dead brown in there, and if we go into the menu, we can see we are killing off our weeds. So there we go. And that is everything you need to do when it comes to prepping your or caring for your crops as we go. The next thing we're to talk about is harvest. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish spraying our weeds off here, and then I'll bring you guys back in to talk about harvesting sunflowers and corn. All right, our corn and sunflowers are ready to harvest. If we go in the menu, you can see this nice golden color here for harvest under the growth calendar. Now, they will slowly get progressively greener here when they're growing. Dark green means just about ready to harvest. Light green means we've just planted them until they get up to there, so just be aware of that. Now, again, as well, if you're playing with seasons on, you have to make sure you harvest these within the harvest window, otherwise they will wither outside of that harvest window and you'll lose everything. After you're done harvesting as well, you just go back to the beginning of this video and you restart the process. You'd field prep and everything like that. But yes, now also too, you'll note this, you can harvest corn for silage. I'm not going to talk about making silage in this video because that's kind of its own thing. I will put a card up on your screen right now. If you're trying to make silage, go check that video out. That will finish the process. This video teaches you how to grow corn. That video teaches you how to make silage out of it. So yeah, again, just go check that video out if you want to make silage now with your corn. And you can also harvest silage a stage early with the corn, so you don't have to wait till it's this kind of dried out color. It can still be in its last green state when you harvest it. So just be aware, which is pretty cool. But yes, now let's harvest these. So we have a regular harvester and a corn header over here is kind of what I call it, or a row crop header. If we go into our store, any one of these harvesters in here is going to do the trick for you, and then you will need a corn header. So any one of these will also do it. You can see corn and sunflowers, very specialty headers for these guys. There is also this header this header right here, which only does sunflowers. I'll put a card up on the screen right now for you guys to check that video out if you want to learn more about the sunlight header by gearing off. It is a very special header and does some kind of advantages for growing sunflowers. Again, I'll put a card up there so you guys can check that out if you want to learn about that. If you're only doing sunflowers, definitely try to get this header. But for our purposes, we have corn and sunflowers growing. So we're going to hop in here and fire up our engine. And it's pretty straightforward to harvest. You can't harvest them obviously at the same time. But what I can do is harvest a little bit of the sunflowers right here. And there we go. We've harvested a little bit of the sunflowers. And now we're going to go ahead and put the pipe out. What I am going to do, you can either you normally would put this in a trailer to sell it off, which I'll talk about in a bit. But just for the sake of what we're doing, I'm just going to unload it onto the ground, which you could later scoop up if you wanted to, just so I can now harvest a little bit of corn here. Need to lower the header down. There we go. And we are now harvesting corn. You can see corn going in there now instead, which is fantastic. So there you go. I can actually we'll get rid of this little bit of corn here. You can see if I go over both fields, it's only going to give me... Oh, it switched back over to sunflowers because there wasn't enough in there. So be very careful. If there's a lower than a certain percentage in anything, it'll switch over to the other fill type. So just be aware of that. But the main thing I wanted to do was not get corn in here, is I wanted to show you that when we come over here to soil composition and we look at needs plowing. Oh, it doesn't need plowing, actually. It should need plowing. Do I have plowing turned off? Let me make sure my settings are correct here. Plowing turned on. So theoretically, it should need plowing every time after you harvest it. For what? Oh, there it goes. It just had to update. It updated. There we go. Needs plowing. I was like, boy, I'm going crazy. And you can see it obviously used the fertilizer off the field. So sunflowers don't need plowing every time, but corn will every time. So there you go. But that's how you harvest it. Now, what do you do with the sunflowers and the corn after you harvest it? Well, there's a few things that you can actually do. One is obviously you can just sell them off, which if we go on the menu here, you can find, well, let's find corn, and you could sell it off to any of these sell points. If you want to know more about how to do that, just a quick guide I'll put up on your screen, a card up on your screen. Go check that out. That'll just give you a quick guide on how to sell crops. So that's the easiest way to take a look at it and do that. You can just sell them off, make a little bit of profit. Maybe you want to wait till the best time. So if you want to wait, you can put them in like a grain silo like that guy over there. Just any basic grain silo will do for that. That way you can use it. And then the last thing you can do is put it in productions or animal feed. So you can use it to feed certain animals. These both can be fed to pigs, so you have those available to you to feed them to. And then also, of course, you can make stuff out of them with productions such as cereal, sunflower oil, all sorts of different things. So there you go. But that's everything I have for you when it comes to sunflowers and corn. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen to join the Farmer Cop channel and turn your notification bell so you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.